I'm telling you, whether you can touch your toes, whether you can do a split, you better make sure you staying mentally flexible. You better make sure you're not one of them people that's developed hardened, fixed mindsets that operate much like prisons, keeping us confined and out of the experiences and off the scenes of enjoyment that we imagine. Again, let's look at it. So like we've been discussing, to be childish is to be beyond being able to be taught. If you don't have a teachable mentality, if you're not able to be guided, able to be led, able to be directed, ironically, you're very, very childish, because it is hard work at times getting a child to align with what has been identified as best for them, because they may have another desire. Their ignorance may have them in a state of absolute oblivion. They may not even know that there's a move that needs to be made. There's a object that needs to be apprehended. There's a mentality that needs to be destroyed, or there's a mindset that needs to be uplifted. A child does not know. A child is operating inside of the safety net, inside of the experience that has been provided for them, the environment that is conducive or supposed to be conducive for their growth. But many of us lived inside of households that facilitated our physical survival. The goal was not to introduce us or reintroduce us to our true self that all had lost sight of. The goal was not to initiate the process of thriving in the experience of abundance that was inherently promised to all of us. The goal was to get us to the other side. The goal was to not fail. The goal was to not be talked about at the end by my children that I led to the other side. The goal was to not be talked about my peer, amongst my peers. And the whole time I said that my children didn't know enough where their complaints should be held as factual. And my peers, I always said, even in grade school, I ain't never cared what these people thought about me. So if I've been telling myself since grade school that I've never cared what these people thought about me, I had a child that I should have been so wrapped up in loving and so wrapped up in extending myself too freely, experiencing and engaging with, creating memories and finding opportunities for both of us to thrive collectively inside of the father-son relationship or father-daughter relationship that we have. But instead, I got wrapped up in what I had already been wrapped up in. Instead, I fell deeper into wondering what people were thinking about me. I fell deeper into projecting negative, nasty, condescending thoughts of myself onto others as though they were the ones thinking it and pushing it my direction. I grew even more superstitious. I grew even more paranoid. I grew even more fearful. See, we were trained to manage our thinking capacity in reverse, on purpose, to keep us from coming into an experience that is actually conducive with our creative makeup. See, you were taught, just like me, when something happens, you should look forward, you should look ahead, you should analyze that moment and try to figure out what is coming next. That's the best thing that you can do. That's the most productive thing that you can do in a moment of crisis, is find the next leak and plug it before this spill expands. But you do understand that by giving attention to a spill, whether you think about not wanting it there, or you think about not wanting it to get bigger, or you think about how you wish that it never happened, you do realize that all of these are different avenues of giving attention to what you do not want, which attention given to what you do not want brings what you do not want into your physical experience by universal law. And the funny thing about court, right? I learned this a couple years back. If you don't know that something is illegal and you break a law and the police witness you breaking the law and they come and they put you in cuffs and they take you to the jailhouse and you bond out and then you have your day in front of a judge and your heart is so pure, so clean, you've done no crime intentionally, you just didn't know. And in your head, you're thinking, this is a judge would easily understand this. I've never been in trouble before. I've never had any criminal charges. This is my first time getting in trouble. And what I did was an act of my ignorance of the law. Well, you do understand that in the case of the U.S. judicial system, ignorance is never a sufficient argument for your crime. It is the obligation of knowing is on you. And I think out of all the things that we can complain about the U.S. judicial system, that is something that, one, aligns with universal truth. It doesn't matter if you're ignorant to the universal truths. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in them. It doesn't matter if you have opposing views. They will operate, they will continue to operate, and they will forever operate. You can either align with it or you can use your free will to fight against an iron rod. You can fight against a system that has never failed if you want to. But at some point, you should ask yourself if maybe your perpetual failures come from warring against a system that has never failed. And if the system has never failed, then you should also ask, if you really, really wanted to be successful, why have you delayed the partnership of your efforts to the system that has never failed? But you say that every day you wake up and you hurt and you pain and you ache and you crave for the success and the fulfillment that you know is on the other side of you acquiring the life that you have envisioned for yourself. But if you envision the life for yourself, and you also know that there is one who has never failed, you or anyone else, then what is taking so long for you to drop your own efforts, drop your own way of thinking, put down your processes, and connect yourself to the one that doesn't fail? It's time to see if you really, really want to be successful the way you say you do. We'll tell people that we are ready for a new life. But if I asked you right now about the minuscule details of your new life, can you tell me how much money you got in the bank in your new life? Pause. How much money you got in the bank right now? See, if you're one of those people who still likes to disregard information to create a false sense of comfortability, because you know that if you know certain things, you'll have certain reactions. But you know that inside of those reactions, you also have certain judgments of yourself for those reactions. So now you've hit yourself with a double judgment. You first judged yourself for the lack that you experienced. Then you judged yourself for judging yourself for the lack that you're experiencing. And then there's this process of undoing all of this and cleaning up the mess and putting it back together and pretending that everything is okay again until the next time the voices on the inside rage and call for our attention, and then we do it all over again. And this is what most of us have called life. So let's look beyond some of the physical laws that we have obsessed over and look at some of the universal laws that we may have overlooked. Some examples of universal laws are the law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of cause and effect. The law of attraction states that like attracts like, meaning positive or negative thoughts bring corresponding experiences into a person's life. By focusing on what you desire, you can manifest it into reality. That sounds like great news, right? By focusing on what you can desire, you can manifest whatever you focus on into reality. That should be something to applaud about. That should be something to jump up and down and celebrate and dance like the people do at church. Oh, that should keep all of us excited. That universal law tells us right there that we have the ability to call to us what we want. But why is it that we constantly have a bunch of aspects and a bunch of things in our life that we don't want? So if we are the ones who are calling things into our life, we are the ones who are manifesting the things that we set our attention on into our life, then where does all of the unwanted elements of our life come from? See, that's why you have held on to this mythological presentation of a Satan, a devil, an accuser, one who has eternally been set against you, who has no power but has enough power to infiltrate your mind, plant thoughts into your head, and get you to go against yourself. Change the narrative, the course, the actual equation of your experience on the physical plane, but he has no power. I can't subscribe to your character because subscribing to your character removes the accountability of me as the sole creator in my experience. I need to know that it is only me who plants in my garden. I need to know that if it shows up in my experience, it lives on the inside of me. I need to know this. This will stop me from judging other people when they introduce what I believe to be unwanted things in my experience. When I get an attitude from a person who I'm trying to explain something to, there is a part of me for sure, if I will stop and think and not defend the dysfunction that I believe is within or not within, then I can absolutely stop and assess. And I know deep down there is a part of me that believes that people don't genuinely listen to things unless it aligns with what they already believe to know. That is a paradigm, a broken paradigm towards people that is a full reflection as a judgment of who I know I have been. See, I can say it's you, but if I recognize it on you, I recognize it from me. Your judgments to others return back to you every time. But you have lived in the convenience of the inconvenience, right? The convenience of the inconvenience of self-blindness. You don't want to see it. See, we are so superstitious that we make the laws of the universe seem to be erroneous. We have defined the laws so superstitiously, so technically, so physically minded, so carnally centric. The law of attraction states that that like attracts like. This does not mean that everyone in front of you will look like you, talk like you, think like you, walk like you, have the same goals and ambitions that you have. This does not mean that the people that you are designed to connect to in relationship are those who allow for you to operate in your dysfunction undisturbed. This does not mean that there's a person or a group of people or a collective or a remnant of any sort that is waiting for you to present your dysfunctional presentation of ignorance and absence of self-awareness and self-identification in its correlation with your creator. And they accept it, approve it, and love you in spite of while you continue. That's not the function of love. Love accepts what is flawed so that what is flawed can see that perfection accepts them flawed. It's not that the person is perfect. The person was designed perfect, created perfect. Yes, all of that. But when I extend to you love, love is perfect. So one who is aware of love's perfection extends it to one who has been focused on their flaws, their shortcomings, their mistakes, and the attention of the other is placed on love instead of their mistakes. For the first time, so that there can be an awakening on the inside. Love does not go and extend itself and get offended when it meets a barrier or a wall. Love holds no offense. Love keeps no record of wrongdoing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love always wins. These are not cliches. These are not just scriptures. This is the truth of the words that you sling out of your mouth so carelessly. You tell people that you have no patience with. You have so little patience with your children. You do so much for your children that you don't want to do for them, that you grow offended with their existence, even though you are fully responsible for their container being here because you wanted temporal satisfaction or you wanted the baby with the person, and y'all premeditated your own dissatisfaction. And you call it love. Doing things for people that you don't want to do leads you to growing offended with their heartbeat, with their desires, with their mentalities. And then you try to pretend like you haven't completely grown calloused and bitter on the inside about this person. And there's this pattern of familiarity that this person has grown accustomed to, so they come to you as you have shown yourself desiring them to. Half the time you told them to. And you need anything, just let me know. And then people come to you trusting that when you said that, you meant that. And you showed them constantly that you do not mean what you say. And you never wanted them to come to you in the first place. So again, the law of attraction stating that like attracts like does not mean physically with my sight I will be able to see the likeness of the things in my experience and the likeness between me and the people that I encounter on the day-to-day. That's not how that works. If I am holding negative thoughts, the negative experiences will enter into my physical realm to expose to me what is taking place beyond my scope of sight. The negative in the physical is not a punishment. It is exactly what I asked for. It's what I asked for when I set my attention on the negative thoughts that I had that preceded the negative experiences in the physical, which goes back to what I was saying. This is why we do not look forward to try and figure out, assume, calculate, or guess what is coming next inside of a moment of crisis. We actually, as students, are called to take a moment and look back. Look at what preceded the moment of the seeming crisis. What was your attention on? Where were your thoughts? What was the inner communication between you and you? What you don't need to know where that other person came from, what they had for dinner. You don't need to know all of the police questions. Save the interrogations for other people and ask yourself the simple questions that pertain to the mental state that you just came out of. And 100% of the time, the physical experience will align with the mental experience that preceded the moment that you're questioning. And then you will have your answer as to why. But it's not only with the negative that we're superstitious more than we're students. It's the positive thinking as well. You think that you can just think, oh, I want a lot of money to take care of a lot of people in my life. I don't even want it for me. I just want it to be able to give and provide for other people. See, that's a statement of somebody who has not taken the time to assess themselves genuinely, transparently. Understand that your desires have very little to do with anyone besides you. They are always very selfish. Desire is selfish in its nature. This is not a judgment about you. This is not something specific about you or about me. This is study on desire. Desire is selfish. You may work somebody else into benefiting from your desires, but never as much as you do, because it's what you wanted and you are working for what you wanted, even if somebody else is the benefactor. You wanted to change their situation. You wanted to change their life. You wanted to change how they think. So you operated on the level that you did vigorously. Anytime they pushed against you, you pushed back to give them what you saw as what they needed. And the minute that they did not appreciate it as what you saw it being, you were offended. Oftentimes removed yourself from that person who no longer deserved your goodness because they didn't appreciate it. That's not a relationship. That's not a gift. That's control. That's domination. A lot of y'all didn't need the leather suit and the scraps. You didn't need none of that to dominate your partner. All you needed was what you knew or called love and companionship and support and being there for somebody. Oftentimes, you being there for somebody has felt worse than a person going through something alone, because all you do is come in and bring more attention and bring more strain on what is already the focus. You're not supporting anybody by telling them how they should have did something or what they should have said or how they should have played something in their past. Your emotional reactions don't help you through moments. What makes you think as a friend, as a lover, as a companion, as a support system for anybody, as a parent, what makes you think that your emotions are going to help anybody through anything that they're going through when they've never done you any good? So that's where we have to make the key alignment when it comes to the law of attraction. The law of attraction is absolutely factual. The law of attraction is absolutely eternally in effect. But you have been superstitiously approaching it, which is why you see it as something more as a fairy tale than the very substratum of your physical experience. Your life is based on this principle. And you approach it so casually. Somebody telling you that you have to get to the point of maturity that you are able to align your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions so that they can cultivate the desired outcome that you say you want for yourself. That can't be too much to ask. If it is, you are not standing on your own feet. You are still a child. You are still a spiritual baby, dependent on somebody else to stand on that solid ground for you and hold you. And you are too big for that. You're too heavy. Who is it that you expect to do such a thing, as if they don't have their own experience to tend to?